Ross, is the U.S. stance on Israel hardening at all? This does seem to be a shift, and why the shift?
It is interesting because President Biden, as you said, did tell the Israeli Prime Minister he'd support a ceasefire. That's still not strongly calling for a ceasefire, which is something other nations have been urging the US to do. But it does represent a shift in tone, and publicly so. The US, of course, has been very engaged behind the scenes in a lot of the diplomatic efforts to defuse the situation. Loads of calls again yesterday to stakeholders, both in the Middle East, across North Africa and Europe and so on. But publicly, at least, the administration has been very careful in their remarks to date. Of course, they've been saying that Israel has the right to defend itself, and that Benjamin Netanyahu's reactions do not appear to be an overreaction so far. It's still probably giving Netanyahu some wiggle room to have a few more days here to try and continue his work to degrade Hamas, to target its military commanders and so on. But it's also a signal perhaps that after that he needs to start winding down. A couple more days and he needs to start looking towards a ceasefire with Hamas. So not quite there as yet.
And there is still ongoing conflict for Israel. What are they most worried about? Where are they most worried about, let's say, in this conflict at the moment?
Well, certainly they're worried about the ability of Hamas just to dig in and keep going. They've fought three quite brutal, brief, inconclusive wars so far. And what they're really seeking with this one is to say once and for all that we want to be able to degrade the ability of Hamas to keep coming for us. And that's their main concern. But also there is the back of the mind thing about how this might play out across the region as well. We had another volley of rockets fired last night from Lebanon towards Israel. That's the second time in the past week. And no serious issues there with those rockets, of course, but it's a reminder, if nothing else, that no one can afford for this conflict to continue to spiral and draw in other players in the region, including Israel, of course, because there is a broader framework at stake for Israel in terms of the flaw with Gulf Arab nations, the Abraham Accords, and the trade and investment that might open up for Israel and open up also travel between those countries in the region. So just the worst-case scenario there would be those accords collapse entirely. And we're some way away from that, of course. But the Lebanon rockets are a reminder to Benjamin Netanyahu that there are many things at stake here.